Hello, this is Ahmed Abuzuraiq from Samuel Fraser University, and today we'll be presenting a work on crafting generative AI as a material for artistic work. Early pioneers in using deep learning for creating artistic work, like Mary Klinkman or Anna Riddler, have explored this medium long before the rise of large-scale AI or text-to-image prompting like we see today. These artists used to work across a spectrum of activities. They would create their own datasets. They would train their own models using pre-existing algorithms or train and create a model of their own, and they would then select and explore the outputs of these models. With the rise of large-scale AI, for example, with systems like Midjourney or DALL-E and others, artists have been forced to work through textual prompting that forces them to articulate what is often tacitly understood by these artists. So I want to ask in my research, how can we reclaim AI as a material for creation? How can we turn AI models from black boxes into craftable materials, akin to physical craft? And I propose that there are two ways that we could do that. The first is small data, and the second is model crafting. Small data refers to training AI models on small or personal datasets that are meant to create something specific or intentional for the artist, rather than training a generalizable model. To understand how artists perceive small data, we use Otolium as a probe. Otolium is a tool for training and exploring generative models. It's open source, locally run, and requires no coding experience. We ran a couple of workshops on 2 days each, where we trained artists in using Otolium. We also invited artists to bring their own datasets to train models on. In the first day, we teach them about the features of Otolium and what small data is. Then they train a model overnight, and then we explore these models and then have a focus group discussion about what they have experienced at the workshop. Out of the study, we found out that artists really favor direct manipulation over prompting, which they found as frustrating overall. And they found that through small data, they could create small personal models that embed some of their personal voice into it in a way that moves them away from homogenized or generic outputs. Lastly, they also favored the local processing that Otolium offers because of its privacy and safety advantages. The study also highlighted some design opportunities for future AI art tools. For example, enabling artists to explore their own visual space by combining direct manipulation and small data model training. Secondly, to map the machine learning process of creating datasets, cleaning them, training and exploring models into the user interface of the tool, uh, thus allowing artists to understand the machine learning process better. And lastly, creating models and training them is part of a larger ecosystem that need to be catered to, which includes sourcing datasets, distributing models, and tools for creation. The second part of how I propose reclaiming AI as a material focuses on the model itself, model crafting. One type of model crafting is model bending. Model bending refers to manipulating the model's parameters so it generates something different or unexpected, and it is inspired by circuit bending in the hardware domain. These are some results from model bending. In the first, we multiply the model parameters at a very specific layer in the model, and we can notice that we get increasingly more abstract results the higher we multiply. In the second, we rotate the model parameters at a specific layer as well with 360 degrees, which allows us to create loops in the latent space. This was accomplished through a plugin that I developed in ComfyUI. ComfyUI itself is a tool for creating AI media generation workflows. I've also conducted experiments to understand the impact of bending at different configurations. For example, I found that bending at a specific layer in the model gives somewhat consistent results across different prompts, which makes bending a reliable instrument for artists and allow communities of practice to build around this know-how knowledge. I've also built a tool that allows for selecting different parts of the models and bending them. And by interactively doing that, I hope would allow artists to get familiar with these models over time, get familiar with which parts are more effective to get what they are looking for, and that it will allow them to be familiar with the models in the same way that artists get familiar with the properties of physical materials like clay or marble. So to recap, early AI pioneers have used AI algorithms as materials that was lost when these models were black boxed. And we want to regain that to attain some powerful models, powerful large scale models, but that are at the same time transparent to artists and malleable. Finally, I want to emphasize that I do not think generative AI in creative work is necessary or inevitable, and I acknowledge that the current context, the social, economical, environmental context, is messy, but I believe that we can define our own rules of engagement and forge a path forward towards an artist centered future with generative AI, but that also requires us to engage with it in order to create that kind of future. And I personally would like to bring back the joy, surprise, and craft that early experimenters with generative systems have experienced and that I have myself experienced, and bring that into the future AI art tools. Thank you for listening.